Well, hello, good morning. I'm here, it's early May, and we're at a nice point here on the farm, so we thought we'd do a farm tour. For us, we get our last spring frost usually right around June 1st, somewhere between Memorial Day weekend and June 1st. So like this morning, we actually had light frost. So it's too early to plant out tomatoes and all that kind of stuff. But the farm's looking really good. The apples are still in bloom. And we're in year 25 on this site. So this is a good example of what is possible to do with a dilapidated old farm with 25 years of effort. And that's really where a permaculture system begins to kind of snowball and things really begin to take a life of their own. So we'll walk down from here. This is our top pond. We store about 1 million gallons of water here. We're filling it from the creek that we have water rights from. And we live in a winter rainforest summer desert area, so we want to go into the dry summer with lots of water. So this is one of 9 ponds here, and we'll walk on down through our main field and show you what's up. These are hazelnut trees here. They'll make nuts in September. So over here is an orchard block that's needing a little bit of TLC. We've been trying to graze sheep and goats in here, and sometimes they're destructive. You can see the one tree that they killed because the cage wasn't done right. But it's a really nice way to be grazing underneath it. They're fertilizing it with their manure, and they can eat fallen fruit in the fall. Over here we have a field that's in a cover crop. This field is really wet in the winter, so we'll be incorporating the cover crop soon, fertilizing with compost, and this will become probably melons and tomatoes and things like that. More fruit trees. Here's this orchard block that the animals were just in, so you can see how nicely grazed it is. Apples and elderberry and more apples and other fruiting shrubs and trees. This is a cover crop that we'll incorporate soon. You can see this is called purple vetch is flowering here. Some of the other things have died down, the oats and rye and clover and fava beans in there. But basically these legumes fix nitrogen, and they help take nitrogen from the air and put it in the soil. And nitrogen is one of the primary drivers of plant growth. And you can see pollinators visiting it, so it's a way to, it supports the farm ecology. In here we have apples and red currants and some other herbs. And then this is a field where we recently mowed and incorporated a cover crop. We'll fertilize this with compost, and this will be what we call a milpa. It'll be corn, beans, and squash, all for seed, but also some food. So this incorporating the cover crop material also takes, not only does it fix nitrogen, but all that biomass, primarily the root biomass, which we don't see, and it builds organic matter that the soil microbes feed on, and then that is a way to create living soil. And here you can see another field that's in a cover crop. This will be incorporated probably this week. I'll mow this and till it in, and it's more clovers and vetch and fava beans. And just to give you a sense of how much biomass is, we had a wet year, so we didn't get as much harder winter cover crop growth, but you can see it's about 3 feet tall here, and you can imagine all the root mass that's down there. One thing I love about this too is it creates a lot of habitat for snakes, frogs, pollinators, all that kind of stuff. And then this will most likely be peppers and squash for seed later in the summer. Here we have hardy kiwis. It's a hardy type of kiwi. They're smaller. They can withstand temperatures down to -20 degrees Fahrenheit. More apples interspersed with different fruiting shrubs like currants and aronia berry, pears. And then this is a field that's all planted out. And we have a variety of seed crops through here, or some empty beds that are awaiting planting. More cover crops. This will be tomatoes and a few other things once we incorporate it. And then in here, we've got a carrot trial, some poppies for seed, an onion trial. Each of these little pink flags represents a different variety of onions. So we do a lot of research and development work here, learning about the various characteristics of the varieties we sell or competing varieties. So there's hybrid onions in here along with all the open pollinated ones that we grow. And we'll evaluate them for flavor, appearance, storage, disease, and pest resistance. And then down here, we've got calendula for seed, some lettuce for seed, fava beans for seed, broccoli seed crop, another lettuce seed crop. This is a new variety we'll be adding. It's called Sicilian black garbanzo bean. And then this is a variety of mustard called bao sin, and that's just beginning to flower and will make seed later in the year. Then down here, some more fruit trees. We got raspberries. These are called honeyberries, and it's not something we sell, but they're a really early fruiting. It's the earliest fruit here on the farm. See if I can find some. Yeah, here's one. And they're already ripe here in early May, which is, nothing else is fruiting this time of year, but they're in the honeysuckle family. And they resemble an elongated blueberry, and they're quite good. This is a nitrogen-fixing gumi, Asian pear, more apples. Then down here, pears, peaches, apples. Then this is our propagation greenhouse. This is where a lot of things start. Right now it's all full of tomatoes and peppers and that kind of thing, zinnias. And we've been putting out the more frost-resistant crops. We make all our own potting soil here. And one thing I've been enjoying this year is incorporating biochar that we made from burning the apple prunings into our potting soil.
Take a walk in there.
Yeah, here, come check out what we have in the propagation greenhouse. Some things ready to go out, broccolis and so on. And then in here we still have a little bit more onions. This is when I started a little bit later. And then a lot of tomatoes, cosmos, Chinese bitter melon, some summer squash that we're participating in a trial with the Organic Seed Alliance, marigolds, coxcomb, more zinnias, lots of tomatoes. We're doing a tomato trial this year of about 50 varieties of heirloom large slicers. So, and then different peppers, zinnias. And this is an unheated greenhouse. And we also do some propagation of other cacti and succulent and that kind of thing in here. And one thing I like to do that's a trick, we can get these plastic barrels from the herb farm. I fill them full of water, and water is a great way to store heat from the sunny day, and it moderates the temperature in here. It also provides habitat for frogs that control pests in the greenhouse. And then we grow aquatic plants in here that we'll put in the ponds later, both duckweed and azolla. Then in here, these are dahlia tubers that we're propagating, and these will go out once the risk of frost is passed. And you can check out in our other videos how we make use of heat mats to help warm heat-loving crops, like these melons here you can see popping up, and a Mexican gherkin. They're related to cucumbers. And come on down, we'll see what else is happening. And then over here we'll perhaps do a separate tour of that another time, but home gardens and our seed barn where we do all our order fulfillment for Siskiyou Seeds. And then this area, more fruit trees, cherries, table grapes. And here we have black currants, which a lot of Americans don't eat currants and gooseberries, but they fill a really great niche early in the season, fruiting in June typically. Then over here, some more currants and plums and a whole thicket of French prune plums. This field will be an early sweet corn seed crop. So it's isolated from some of the other ones. Corn pollen does spread, but if you have a little isolation plot, you can keep it true to type in there.
What kind of distance do you need to get isolation?
Generally speaking, about a half mile, but trees and the prevailing wind can really affect how pollen moves and the pollinator density. So in here is a bunch of perennial seed crops. We've got gypsy wort and bugleweed, artichokes, hollyhock. And then a little bit further down here, we have, it's a bit shady, but we've got French sorrel and lamb's ear, valerian, and motherwort. And then it's just coming up and difficult to see because I haven't weed whacked in there, but licorice and some various ornamental thistles and scabiosa interspersed with apple trees. So a lot of things in a permaculture system, eventually the apples will shade out all that stuff, and we won't be doing that. The herbs in there and the flowers, because there won't be the sun. But it takes the apples about 20 years to get to that size. This is a newer planting, and these are maybe 10 years, 12 years old. So we can still do double cropping in between. And then we have another field over here we can check out. So this is Spring Creek, or Horsetail Spring Creek. It flows year round. Right now I think we're witnessing a higher flow due to snow melt because we've had some warmer days. And Aslan didn't make the gate. So we have a water line that we can take water from our legal water right way upstream and have gravity flow from this creek. So this here is about a 3-acre field that we have broken up into 7 different paddocks. So this is just grass we're growing for the sheep, but then we'll rotate them up and through here. So they just moved in here this morning and they're pretty happy about the fresh growth. So about every 3 weeks this time of year we'll move the animals back onto a pasture and then give it a rest because they will have eaten everything. And for us, the sheep are important not only for eating grass, but also we compost their manure that we use for fertility on the farm. And then obviously we get wool, sheepskins, and meat from tending the flock. So we had a really wet winter and spring this year, so it made it difficult to get in and weed our garlic. We usually grow about 15 or 20 varieties of heirloom garlics that we distribute for seed, planting stock, which for those of you unfamiliar with that, there aren't actual garlic seeds. You just take the bulb and break it apart. So this is one of 3 fields, and we're in the midst of weeding it and mulching it with rice straw. And then down below us is some chestnut and black locust trees. These are Turkish tree hazels, and we're beginning to get nuts. What the birds don't get, we get. And here's another field of garlic looking really nice. Garlic does a lot of its growth in this late springtime, and we typically harvest around early July. And you can see how this is another little pocket field, and we can, once the garlic's out of here, we'll cover crop it, and then we can graze the sheep in here. So we're actually getting their manure cycling down through. And then one more field of garlic up here. And this one we actually had some turkeys come in and scratch it up. It was an interesting moment. So you can see some of these areas where there are big gaps, and turkeys can be a pest. And then some more persimmon and walnut trees up in here. And then this is a field where I have a number of different seed crops established: artichokes, spinach, more chickpeas, and I also have radishes for seed. They're just now coming up, and some other brassicas like mustards. And then one more field up here where I have some broccoli and lettuce for seed, and some other sweet peas and things of this nature. So the beauty of a seed farm is that, a little field like this, because some crops we don't really need that much seed, we can do a lot of production in a small space, or we'll do research. So this broccoli for here actually isn't technically a seed crop for us. We're partnering with the Organic Seed Alliance on a program called the OSPRI. It stands for Organic Seed Production, Research, and Education, where we're measuring seed yield of different varieties. So the lettuce and the broccoli, that they're just small here, just put them in. But it's helpful for a grower to understand how much seed are you going to get per plant and that kind of thing. So we're participating in a multi-farm trial this year, and I'm excited to get some data. And you can see down through this field how, again, I mentioned at the beginning, we've broken it into these blocks. So when then these crops are all done, we can let the sheep in here, clean up, eat the grass, and lay down some rich manure. And one thing I'm learning at this point in life, after 25 years of farming here and about 30 years of farming full-time, is the quick, easy, cheap way is usually not going to last as well as the time-consuming, expensive, more energy-intensive methods, whether that's building a fence or whatever you're doing. So it's usually better to do it right the first time, but when you're younger, you don't necessarily understand the wisdom in that because you just want to move fast. Or there's that African proverb that I think applies as well. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.